beginning, there was one God, and the whole wide world served that one God. There is one God, He's the only God. We should have no other God before us.
Greetings, this is the Ghetto Free Press, and I'm George Boston Rhines, and I'm reporting to let you know that the interview you're about to see is from the new elected mayor of Quitman, Georgia. In fact, not only is he the first mayor of Quitman, he is the first elected mayor in Quitman, Georgia's history, I believe. As I look up into the sun, I see a new day. And it seems as if though the movement and change in Quitman and Brooks County seems to be a little more advanced, even over Valdosta, Georgia. However, these two cities are so close until I think we should learn from one another. And that is, I was in Macon, I think it was 2010 or 2011, and Brooks County have more of their eligible voters registered than Lowndes County. So somebody in Brooks County are working pretty hard so the citizens will have a right under our form of government. Now, let us go to Valdosta State University, and we're going to listen to an interview by the new and first time elected mayor of Quitman, Georgia, and he is the black historic mayor. And above all, it's not about skin color. This individual is a United States retired veteran. He served his country. He was elected city council. But look, I'm about to give you now the rest of the story. I didn't hear the local radio stations say too much about this historic mayor. Listen to him as he speaks to you on the Ghetto Free Press, KYRC, which means Know Your Rights campaign. We do this because you do have a right to know. Listen, please.
A little bit about who you are, your background, that kind of thing.
My name is James G.B.R. III. I was born on Moody Air Force Base in Valdosta, and my dad was in the military, and so we went to Columbus when I was very young, in Delaware, and we came back home. So I'm pretty much from Quitman, Georgia. That's where I graduated from, and in 1988 I went into the military and into the Navy, and I got out in 1992, and I went into the reserves, but I was working as a correctional officer in Pelham at G.B.R. Correctional Institution as a correctional officer, and I decided to go back in the military. So I went back into the Army in 1994, and I retired March 2010. I've done 2 tours in Iraq and done quite some time overseas in Korea, Belgium, Portugal, been all over the world.
Okay, so why go back to college? Now you've done all that, why go back to college?
Well, the VA has afforded us veterans a beautiful opportunity to go back to school to better ourselves so that we may be even a better asset for the community. Because we have training in the military, but it's very specific. And what school does for me is it broadens my horizon and helps us to look at the world in a different manner so that we may cope with the world in a better way.
Okay.
Posting anything on Facebook yet. And I was going to ask someone because I didn't even use it for the election. But I like the idea of Facebook because it connects you with the entire world and gives you, you don't have to use the traditional media such as the newspaper, or you don't have to go through anyone. You can do this from the comforts of your home.
And in the classroom, have you like had to, have to use Facebook or Twitter or anything like that, and you had to kind of, I guess, do some homework per se to try and figure out how to use the technology in the classroom, or is that something not really been an issue at this point?
One teacher mentioned it once, but we use BlazeView, and they've changed it a little bit, and we've had to adapt to it. But that hasn't happened in school yet, but I think some classes are using Facebook.
Okay. And that kind of brings up a good point I wanted to touch on. How do you think college has changed from when you first graduated high school to now? I mean, what do you think the differences are?
Well, I actually went to the University of Maryland. I've only taken one class before at the University of Maryland. It was a French class. And it didn't seem as fast-paced as it is now. There's a lot of information, and the teachers have to put it out in very little time. And you have to rely on yourself because they tell you what you need to do. It's on the syllabus, it's on BlazeView, and you have to have discipline yourself to complete the assignment.
And is that something that you kind of like got used, that discipline? Is that something that you carried over from your time in the military, or is that something that you just kind of had to get used to now that you're back in college?
That's a different type discipline because it's all up to you. No one tells you you have to be in class. No one tells you to do your homework. No one's checking on you. And in the military, you always have someone over you. You always have someone checking on you. And this is a little bit different. I haven't tried online classes yet because some people tell me that takes your discipline level has to be very high.
What would your advice be for young people or young students, say, who are getting ready to graduate high school and they're contemplating, maybe joining the military or going to college or possibly just going straight to the workforce? What would your advice for some of those people be?
My advice would be that even in the military, they send us to school. So education is the key. It is very important. So no matter where you go, no matter what you do, if there's an opportunity to seek education, I'd say take it. Because the military, if you go in, they have tuition assistance and they will pay for your education. So, or if you go straight into schooling, it might be a little harder because of the financial reasons, but I don't care what you do in life, just make sure that you try to achieve an education, because education makes the world a better place.
One of the last things I was just curious about, does the Air Force have a saying, like the Marines, everybody, knows the Semper Fi. What's the one for like the Air Force? Do they have one?
Well, I wasn't in the Air Force. I was
in the
Air
Force. Sorry.
The Army, no. The Army, they said, "Who up?" That was a saying. I don't actually have any explanation for it. It was just a camaraderie thing, an esprit de corps, and we said it a lot. And it was a confidence builder, a morale builder, and it just lets you know that you were a part of something bigger.
Okay. And then last thing I'll ask is, do you feel like the learning is kind of going both ways, that you're a little sort of, I guess, older than the traditional college students? Do you feel like you're able to like impart some wisdom on them, being that you're older and a little bit wiser, and as well as, learning whatever the professors are teaching in the class?
Sometimes in certain classes, I do have different views only because of the experiences I've had and the people I've been around. And I guess you could call it wisdom. And I do have some insight on some situations, and I try to elaborate whenever possible. Sometimes it's not possible in a class with 150 people, but it does give me an edge, I believe, and I try to use that to help others whenever I can.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I have a question. When you first ran for the Quitman City Council, did you have any idea that you would be running for mayor of that same city?
Actually, when I ran for city council, that was my goal, to be the mayor of Quitman, Georgia.
Are you the first black mayor of Quitman?
Yes, I am the first black mayor of
I
Quitman.
thought so. Okay.
I'm also the first elected mayor of Quitman. The other mayor was appointed by the city council.
Well, how does it feel to be in the history books at such a young age for Brooks County, or Quitman in particular?
It is an honor because Quitman is my hometown, and I love Quitman. There was never a thought in my mind that I would not come home. All those years away from home, I knew that I would come back home because that's where my family is, that's where my heart is, and I thought I could make a contribution to the community, and I would be an asset.
Being elected the first black mayor, who do you contribute the success of your campaign other than you, who contributed to this great accomplishment?
My mother, Mary Irene Brown, she was out there knocking on doors. She hit the pavement from day one. Bought the signs, she put the signs out, and my mother was a real driving force in my campaign.
And my last question is, where do you hope to take the city of Quitman under your administration?
Well, I gave that some thought, and unity is what we need in Quitman. There's a lot of separatism going on over there, and the Bible says a house divided against itself cannot stand. That's in the book of Matthew, the 12th chapter, 25th verse, I believe. And I truly believe that we need to get rid of some of those old ways and the way people think. It's time for a new way of thought, and we can achieve that through time. And the Bible also says in Ecclesiastes, the 3rd chapter, that there's a time pretty much for everything. And there's a time to be broken down, and there's a time to be built up. And we need to build Quitman up, make it a better place, so that we can leave a legacy for our children. But all these things, I believe, the key to them comes from education.
What is the greatest, this is my last question, what is the greatest point or accomplishment you would say probably that the former mayor, Mayor Curtis Pickens, contributed to Quitman? What would you think would be it? What do you think he did that inspired you, or you took more notice of that he did?
Well, the thing that I know of from my short time at home was the infrastructure that was built out on the Madison Highway. Because we need jobs in Quitman. The unemployment rate is very high, and Brooks County is one of the poorest counties in Georgia. Quitman is in Brooks County. So I believe that that was a right step in the right direction, and we will improve on that as the years go along.
Thank you very much.
Do you need any more information?
No, I think I'm good.
I'd just like to say that I appreciate all the support, the votes, and the prayers from everyone during my campaign time that led up to the election, and I would do my best, but I would do what is right. So you just have to bear with me, give me time, because procedures, rules, and regulations have to be followed, and I don't try to circumvent any of those. And if there's a rule that's old or antiquated, then we will try to change that rule. But all of these processes take time, and through time, we can build a better community. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you, sir.